Hello there lovely people, it's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at Codename S.T.E.A.M in review. Now, for those that don't know, Codename S.T.E.A.M is a third-person, over-the-shoulder strategy game, sort of mixed with some shooting stuff as well, and it's made by Intelligent Systems, who are the people responsible for Fire Emblem, and of course the Advance Wars series, so they really know what they're talking about when it comes to strategy games. You control a crack team of mercenaries known as S.T.E.A.M, which is the strike team eliminating the alien menace, I believe. Your team is headed up by Abraham Lincoln, and the team itself is filled with fictional characters from classic literature, which is brilliant, and I believe it's all American, but I'm not 100% sure about that. You've got characters like, you've got Tom Sawyer, you've got John Henry, you've got Tiger Lily from Peter Pan, you've got the Lion from the Wizard of Oz, I nearly said the Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe. If you're into classic literature, you're going to have an absolute blast with this and all the subtle little references here and there, and seeing these characters really come to life in a new, fresh and original manner. As far as gameplay goes, it's really solid, it really is. You basically take your turn and you move around and you perform these actions, and all of these actions use up your Steam meter. Once your Steam meter is depleted, you can't do any more actions. However, when you're moving, you move through these sort of squares, and you can always backtrack, so you can always get your Steam back unless you take an action that will actually have an impact on an enemy. This is nice because it's a nice sort of gentle introduction to strategy games. It's not make or break. Every action doesn't immediately have a consequence. You can peek around corners, but be warned. There is a system in the game that both you and the enemy can use called Overwatch, and if you end your turn when one of your characters still has a certain amount of steam left, it depends from character to character, then you can use what's called Overwatch. Now, anyone who's played XCOM will know immediately what I mean when I'm talking about Overwatch. Basically, if that character is in Overwatch and an enemy moves in front of their line of sight, they will shoot at that enemy during the enemy's turn, which is a really useful strategy that you will have to master. However, as I said before, the enemy can use this as well, so you've got to be careful, and that's really what the game is all about. You've got to be careful and sensible and not do anything too brash. The game controls using the circle pad for movement, and you use the A, B, X and Y buttons to aim, or indeed you can use the touchscreen, or if you've got a new 3DS or new 3DS XL, you can use the C-Stick, which is lovely and frankly my favourite way to play it. As far as difficulty goes, it's really as difficult as you make it, which sounds strange, but the game is inherently quite a challenge, but not completely overwhelming. To begin with, things will be a little bit alien, if you'll pardon the pun, and it will take a while to get used to. Once you've got used to it, things become a little bit sort of simpler. However, if you're looking for a bit of additional difficulty, you can find it by picking up the additional items within the level. There are 3 gears or cogs that you have to find throughout every level, and that really does ramp up the difficulty if that's what you're looking for. In a way, it's sort of optional difficulty, and that's a system that I can really get behind, because if you're not particularly strategic, then you can still have fun and still do really well in the game, but if you want more of a challenge, you can just choose to do it. You don't have to choose a difficulty level, it feels all very natural. Presentation-wise, the game is absolutely stunning. I mean, the screenshots and the gameplay footage don't do it justice. You stick that 3D on, particularly if it's super stable, and you are going to have a hell of a treat for your eyes. The comic book stylings mixed with the steampunk aesthetic means that it is a truly unique experience for the eyeballs, particularly for a Nintendo system. However, the game is not without its drawbacks, and one of the biggest issues is when the enemy player takes its turn, and it sounds really basic, but bear with me. Once you've taken your turn, it means it's time for the enemy to take its turn. And of course, that means that the enemy has got to move around using the Overwatch system. It's got to move around in the same way you do, and it can take quite a long time. If you're patient and like strategy games like me, it's probably not going to be too much of an issue, but if you're sort of a less patient individual, you might find yourself getting a little bit frustrated when it comes to waiting around and you don't know what the enemy's doing. It's a bit annoying, to be honest. However, if that's something that doesn't bother you, then you're going to have an absolute riot with this game, and it doesn't just end at single player. There's also really substantial multiplayer. There are various modes you can choose from, basic deathmatch and things like that. There are 3 in total, not going to mention the 3rd one at all because that'll sort of ruin a bit of the plot, so I'm not going to touch on that. But the rest of it, the other 2 modes that I will talk about, are fantastic. It plays very much like the single player, but instead you're going up against a human opponent, and humans can be an awful lot sneakier than CPUs. You're also not limited to local play. This will work perfectly online, and because there's not a lot of sort of action, it means that lag really isn't an issue, which is an absolute blessing in this day and age. This is a truly unique experience on the 3DS. There's nothing quite like it on Nintendo's handheld. And it comes with bags of content, so if you're into strategy, you could do a hell of a lot worse than to pick this up. Honestly, I seriously recommend it. Make sure you check out the full review on Nintendo Life. There'll be a link in the description, written by the fantastic Lee Meyer. He goes in a lot more detail than I do in these sort of strange little videos that I do, so be sure to check that out. It's a very good read. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, why don't you shoot out that subscribe button, and be sure to check out nintendolife.com for all sorts of lovely Nintendo related content. Thank you again for watching. Bye bye.